I thought it was one of the best performances. Eddie Howe called it a famous win. I think he's right. I think that will go down as one of the best performances during his time at the club.
That's the player that I want to see. That's the player that I hopefully can go to the World Cup and, do in the crowd.
Well, I was doing well until I heard that nonsense from Adrian. I'm going to have to send him a text about this.
He hasn't even been Newcastle's worst signing
this season. No.
That is probably the worst football hot take of all time.
Not that we're getting ahead of ourselves either, Kev, but you've just said that we're likely to beat Barcelona. So, I mean, how exciting... Hello and welcome to Inside The Toon, the show where we dive deep into all things Newcastle United. I'm your host, Olly Clink. Joining me on the panel today, making his Inside The Toon debut from Roots TV, Newcastle fan Clinton Forde, and from the Adam Clery football channel, it's Adam Clery himself. Let's get straight into it. Lads, what a week, what a win. Will Osula, you absolute hero, beating Manchester United in the last minute. It doesn't get better than that, does it, Adam?
No. Next question.
That's all we've got time for.
It was absolutely, honestly, we're on a really bad run. The results have not been coming. I mean, last time I was on here, I was like, well, if we want to qualify for Europe, then you find a way to win against teams like Everton, against Brentford, and we didn't. The season's fast spiralling. The little gap towards where we want to be in the Premier League is getting wider and wider. And Man United are on a great run. They're not back to where they want to be necessarily, but certainly the results have improved. They play much better football. Individually, they've looked much better as well. It's not exactly the game you wanted to play, but what's been weird about us this season is that is actually the game that really suits us in those circumstances. And I thought we were brilliant from the first whistle. I thought we absolutely suffocated the life out of them. Our midfield ran through theirs in the way it has done in previous seasons. And when that red card gets brandished, then you think all that's for absolutely nothing. Like, they've played well, they've obviously got the game plan spot on. A lot of these players look back to their individual bests. Systematically, we look brilliant, and now it's been ruined, which is a defensive effort. But to go from there to not just recover from the setback of the red card, but the setback of losing that goal right before half-time after you've got yourself in front, I thought it was one of the best performances. I mean, Eddie Howe called it a famous win. I think he's right. I think that will go down as one of the best performances during his time at the club.
Definitely, and also just such a needed win, wasn't it, Clinton? Yeah. Given that Everton result once again, and that league form just looking so desperate. I think even though it was euphoric and you're beating Manchester United, and it's one of those, like you say, Adam, famous nights at St James's Park. I do think there was almost an element of just not relief, but everyone there going, "My God, the players needed that."
Oh yeah.
The fans needed that. Eddie Howe needed that as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think, look, my voice is still recovering from that. I was losing my mind as soon as scored that goal. What a goal, by the way. Like, oh, God. I call him the Danish Kylian Mbappe now. The way he just cut it inside and starts to top in is a great goal. But yeah, like I said, the credit to Eddie Howe. I've not been, as of late, his biggest supporter, I'll be honest with you, but at the same time, what a performance all round. Some of the calls that he made, big calls, by the way, dropping Nick Pope, he wasn't injured, he dropped him, Ramsdale came in, some worldy saves that he made, by the way. Kieran Trippier, again, I've been getting on to him as well, playing multiple games in a week. What a game he had, basically Pogba, Cunha, Dan Burn as well. So again, all round the team, fantastic performances, and yeah, what a win. We needed that win.
Yeah, there's so much to get into, especially that goalkeeper situation. We're going to get into all of that. I just want to start with Osula, because actually you talk about big calls, and actually Johan Wissa left on the bench, and he opts for Will Osula. And what I quite liked about it is afterwards they were talking about Will Osula, after training, taking 10 more balls, trying that shot. I mean, it genuinely reminded me...
10 of them, didn't he?
Yeah, it reminded me of Goal the Dream Begins, which I'm sure a lot of... Muniz on the pitch, curling in free kicks. But I love it, and I feel like, and Eddie Howe said, you'll get rewarded for that hard work. And, I'm not saying that that's the reason he brought Osula on, but it is quite damning for Johan Wissa, that, I think.
Yeah, I really am reserving the sentence I'm about to say. This is not really the context I want to say the sentence, but I think that exact goal, you saw precisely why Will Osula is such an exciting player who was worth sticking with, who was worth developing, but at the same time, why he does not start games and why he doesn't get brought on again in other situations. That is a chaotic situation. The game's become entirely transitional. There's space, shape's gone out the window. You can't really get any instructions onto the pitch. It's just pure chaos. And he goes and wins the ball back on the edge of his own box, slightly on the left-hand side of the pitch, and then just sprints up the entire right-hand side. Now, that's not structured. Now, I know Eddie
We
Howe
need a
said-
player like that. We've needed a player like
exactly.
that since St. Maximin. We've not had a player like that who's just... He does it by himself. He's a maverick. And that's what we used to call St. Maximin, right? A maverick. And everyone else kind of does what they do. They run in straight lines. They're great athletes. But someone like Osula, and he's got previous for it as well. He's done it against Liverpool. You know, scored a goal against them, albeit we lost, obviously. But at the same time, we need a player like that who just can do stuff off the cuff and pull out a bit of magic.
Yeah, like when games get into those situations, like you are relying, as you say, like on maverick players, people to take responsibility and just do what they can do, regardless of what they're told on the training ground or from the touchlines. But the amount of times we find ourselves in those situations, because of where we are as a club, is so few and far between. So you can see why they want to work on Osula to sort of rein that in a bit, but at the same time, why it's so important to still have players who can do that.
What I love as well is, I don't know if you saw the interview with Dan Burn, but he was there saying, I was actually shouting at him to go to the corner. You know, try and see out, try and get a point, which wouldn't have been terrible with 10 men. And Osula's just gone, no.
Yeah, he saw his name in the lights, and I'm glad he did.
Brilliant.
I'm so glad
You've got to have players who like back themselves in those situations. And look, if he gives that ball away trying to cut inside, if Malacia takes it off and Man United go up the other end and score, he'd never be forgiven for it. But that doesn't occur to him. It's just like, I've got the ball, I've got ability, I've got an opportunity. And like Eddie says, you know, you're rewarded for the extra work you do on the training ground. You're rewarded for just having that ambition in situations as well. So we did not deserve, weirdly, a point in that match. We deserved to win it.
I was going to say. You had me there.
We didn't deserve to draw that match. Like, we were better than Man United for 90 minutes, and we were especially the 30 minutes after the second half started. We had more of the ball, we had more chances. Like, you would never have guessed who had 10 men. We deserved to win that game, but it needed a moment like that to go and win it.
You're right as well, Clinton. These chances have been few and far between. And look, you know, he is the youngster of the striking options that they do have. But is this his moment now? Is this the moment for Eddie Howe now to think, right, OK, you proved you can do it against a team like Manchester United, amazing finish. I'm now going to trust you to start in a few more games and bring that chaos from the off.
I don't know about starting games. That's a bit too step.
But also, where could you start him? You could start him on the right. There have been some calls to maybe start him on that right-hand side, which has been a problem all season.
You're right, because no one's really honed in on that. You know, it's been flicking between Alanga and Jacob Murphy. Like, who outright owns that position? You know, we bought Alanga in for 55 million. It's not really worked out. Jacob Murphy's been there. That sort of connection that he's had with Isak, obviously we don't want to mention him too much, but it's now kind of disappeared, obviously. So yeah, he could make his position his own on the right-hand side. I just don't know about starting up top. I still think we need to figure that situation out. And Anthony Gordon is the front runner, albeit he is a wide player, but he is the top, you know, our main goal threat right now. So I don't know about starting up front, but maybe on the right-hand side, you might have a point there.
It feels so boring to say it, but like where we were a couple of years ago, like this is why we loved St. Maximin. We were in open games where teams were coming at us all the time because Newcastle United was 3 points you could go and get, which is what made St. Maximin so brilliant because like these games, teams were attacking us, there was space to get into. The boring reality of it is now, and we've talked about this on, I think, every single episode of this I've been on, they want us to be a controlled football team. They want us to manage energy, manage legs, manage space, manage the ball, manage possession. And opportunities for a player like Osula to do maverick stuff are so few and far between. So that moment shows exactly why you should use it when games open up. Like, they are there to be
I hope he doesn't
won.
get beaten out of him. Hopefully that rawness doesn't get beaten out of him. I hope he just go back to being robotic and, like you said, if Dan Burn gets his way, he runs into the corner flag, please, no, we need to see some excitement. If we're going to be going to games or watching games and be invested in this team, let's have someone who can just kind of give us that little bit of moment of magic.
I agree. Players like Osula doing things like that are why you want to go to football matches. Right. But I just the next time we've got a game at St James's Park against a team who are going to put 11 men behind the ball and deny us space, what is Osula going to do with that situation? That's the test for him. That's the thing, part of his game they've got to develop. Can you do it in those games? Can you give us something in those moments, not just when there's seconds left on the clock and 50,000 people are screaming at you to take somebody on?
It's worth paying for the ticket just to see the biggest step-overs of all time.
Yeah, enormous.
You mentioned as well, I mean, there's so many individual performances we could talk about, but Joelinton. Oh my word. I mean,
there was a couple times he said went to the shops and I thought they was going to Asda, Sainsbury's, Tesco's. Other shops are available, by the way. You know, it was crazy. Sorry.
No. And after the game, I mean, Eddie Howe said it was like Every Linton helps. No. That's the end of me on this show, I think. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, no, I think after the game, Eddie Howe said it was like having two
players
men on the pitch, and he was absolutely bang on. And you know what, Joelinton has obviously had his injury issues this season, but even when he has been fit, I don't think we've seen him at the level that he can be. That was him at his absolute best. And how much have we missed that, Clinton?
Yeah, it's just like, you know, he's always known for being that brute force, the one who breaks up play, but there you saw the silkiness, the flair is like, I don't know if I want to go to Rivaldo sort of, I don't know, I'm still gassed over the results, so I don't want to go too far, but yeah, he brought that flair, but also brought the robustness in midfield. Like, it didn't feel like it was down to 10 men. So again, he's been a big miss, and with Bruno out, maybe he's the guy to kind of step in and be like, okay, no, the mantle's on me, like the burden's on me. I know Tonali's been stepping up as of late, but Joelinton really took it upon himself to kind of drive in midfields. And like I said, I was very impressed with him.
Yeah, it's a good point about Bruno as well. First league win without Bruno. There have been wins, obviously, in other competitions, but that feels like a big psychological step, I think.
Like, it sounds daft. Like, the players, they know that still usually 11 versus 11. It shouldn't matter so much that one player isn't available. Like, but there will be a psychological lift to that, because the longer that goes on, we haven't won without Bruno. The longer you start giving yourself the excuse, you know what I mean? Like, oh, Bruno's not here today, so nothing is going to be expected of us. And, whether players have got the right mindset or not is another question, but that will be in the back of some brain somewhere. To get the win without him and to get the win in those circumstances when we needed it that badly against opposition of that calibre is absolutely massive. Like, Joelinton's a really good one to pull out, because he's had critics this year. He's struggled for form, he's struggled for fitness. He's in much the way that the team hasn't looked like its best self this season. Joelinton's pretty much typified that, because there's been very few games where you'd say that was Joelinton at his best. He's dominated that. He's been brilliant for it, because there's been, he's been in and out. There's been a lot of competitions and whatnot. But there was this great moment in this game where he goes and I can't remember which Man United player it is, but he gets in on his blind side and barges him out of the way, fairly, wins the ball, and everybody's up off the seat, right? And then he misses a 5 or 10 yard pass, gives it straight back to Manchester United, and you're sitting back down, you're like, oh, that's the problem with Joelinton. Like, he does the hard bit and then he messes up the easy bit.
Yeah.
And by the time that thought's finished in your head, he's covered the ground of his own pass and gone and won it back again. He's now wildly out of position. The whole play's broken down, but he's won it back twice in the space of a couple of seconds. And then I think he went and put it out of play. And you're like, we'll call that net. That's you. That's come out quite even.
That's a Joelinton summary right there.
I loved watching that, but we've come out relatively even.
Do you know what? We mentioned Trippier as well. Magnificent performance.
Trippier's best game for a long time.
Yes, it should be mentioned that. Someone else I want to give credit to as well, though, is after the red card happened, and I think we all had that sinking feeling, and it felt like we've had this so often this season. Like you said, Adam, great start to a game, and then something happens like that. You just feel like it's the story of the season. Anthony Gordon, who was booed by a section of fans during the Everton game when he came off, which was tough for him. Whatever you think about his performance in that game, I just thought that there was that moment where he picked up the ball, and actually when you watch it back, the penalty incident, Anthony Gordon, it's all of his own making.
He gets the ball. He's the one who gets the ball back.
He drives at the box. It's Gordon at his absolute best, wins that penalty, and I just thought the way he took that moment and the game at that moment by the scruff of the neck, I just think he deserves a lot of credit for that. You can argue that maybe he did look still, I think, in the first half a bit like, it looked still a bit like we've got a winger as a centre forward, and maybe he was struggling a bit. But that moment for me felt really important because of what had happened the week before too.
Yeah, that's Gordon at his best, really, like running at players, just being fearless. I don't like this whole running in straight lines. I like him like a bit tricky, like if he's going to go right, he's going to go left. I like that sort of Anthony Gordon. That's the player that I want to see. That's the player that I hopefully can go to the World Cup and, do England proud sort of thing. So when Anthony Gordon did that and won the penalty and put it away, I was thinking, yes, that's what we want to see, So I think he's really stepped up as of late, especially like when I know I kind of get onto him about stat padding with the penalties and all the rest of it now, but really and truly, he's needed that for his confidence. He's really needed to lead the line, and he has been our main striker so far this season, so credit to him.
We've got to talk about Ramsdale.
Yes.
Another performance which was sensational.
Yes.
Really. I mean, some of the saves he made. Obviously, there's the one right at the end where he's tipping it over as it's heading into the top left-hand corner, which is kind of the standout save. But so many other moments from him. Is this the moment, though, Adam, do you think, where he then takes the mantle on, becomes the number one? Because obviously Nick Pope was dropped for this game.
Do you know what I said before, like you see in the Osula moment, like this is just an environment that suits him so well, but you can envisage tighter, like more bitty games, he'd struggle to make an impact. I think the same is actually true of Anthony Gordon. I think because Man United still wanted to press us high, but they had Maguire in, so they didn't want to push the defence up too high behind it. The game was quite open. He found a lot more space to run into and to attack, which he struggles to do sometimes. So I think it suited Gordon very well. I think in the same way, the game really suited Aaron Ramsdale because Man United are, they're no mugs at set pieces, but they're certainly not one of the teams that literally lump high balls onto the goalkeeper, put you under constant pressure. They didn't really close him down, so he had time on the ball, which is very good when he gets. And a lot of their shots were from long, the kind of stuff Nick Pope weirdly seems to struggle with, where he's got a long time to think about how he's going to deal with it. I thought the game really suited him, but that only gets you so far. You've still got to do the important bits, and you've still got to perform well. I thought he was excellent on the ball, especially when we went down to 10 men. The ability to go back to him and not worry about, is he going to look after that?
So refreshing,
is he going to rush his kick?
Yeah.
He didn't. Very rarely did we lose the ball as a result of giving it back to Ramsdale, whereas when we give it back to Pope, the objective for him is just don't make a mistake here. Put it where you've got to put it, maybe keep it in play, but it's not accurate and it doesn't relieve pressure. Ramsdale is brilliant at that, and when they finally did come onto him, he would then play over the top of that and we'd get moving up the pitch. So having Joelinton being that physical and covering that much ground is like having an extra player. But having a goalkeeper who is going to be as comfortable on the ball, if not more so than some of the lads in the back line, that basically gives you another player entirely when you've got the ball. So I thought it really did. It was a game that was going to allow him to show you how good he is at certain things, but he still did, and he deserves massive, massive credit for that. I think there'll be, just in the same way we keep having games where you look at Pope kicking the ball into touch and you think, God, I really wish we'd gone with Ramsdale today. There's going to be some games where Ramsdale's having balls rained down on top of him, and you will be sitting there thinking, I really wish we'd gone with Nick Pope today. There's no perfect scenario, I think, out of the options we got. But I thought he was excellent against Man United.
Also, I've got to give credit where it's due to Eddie for dropping his favourite son, because he loves Nick Pope. He is. You know he is. And that's
no, but you're right. I was a bit surprised, to be honest.
I was surprised. Yeah, I was surprised.
Because rain, sleet, hail, snow, he'll always play Nick Pope, even if he has a howler. Look at the amount of howlers he's had over the years, let alone this season. So he dropped him, and look, I do not want to see Nick Pope for the rest of the season. I'm sorry. I don't want to see.
I guarantee you there will be some point in this season where you're watching corners or throw-ins come in, wishing it was Nick Pope running out together.
Never.
I promise you.
Hand on heart, I can tell you.
I hope I'm wrong.
No, I've seen enough of Nick Pope to say thank you very much. Thank you for your services. There's a reason why I was looking at James Trafford all these time around and wanting to come to the club, but we've got Aaron Ramsdale, who's more than capable of filling in. We've seen the job he's done against Man United. Thank you very much. He can be the number one to the end of the season. I don't know if he's going to stay longer past then, but for me, Ramsdale can stay in goal to the rest of the season.
I think one of the issues is that Nick Pope, it used to be, and we spoke about this, and you said if you could blend them together as a goalkeeper,
if you gave Nick Pope Aaron Ramsdale's feet, maybe at the minute Aaron Ramsdale's confidence, you'd have one of the best goalkeepers in the league.
But actually, that's been the issue, because the trade-off has been either shot stopping or good with your feet. And the issue, I think, with Pope has been that shot stopping, even if you look at the Everton game, that's then turned into mistakes. So actually, you begin to think, well, if we're going to trade one against the other, you're going to have to take the feet. And then, with the confidence that Ramsdale showed in that Manchester United game and the shot stopping he showed, look, it is seeming like it will be a shift towards it being Nick Pope. What's interesting is obviously they've got Man City next in the Cup. Usually you'd play I think you'd still play your cup keeper. I know it's a big game, but I feel like Ramsdale probably would have started that game anyway.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of strange if he brings Pope in. Is Pope now the cup keeper? I mean, we'll see how it is. I'm assuming Ramsdale will be playing that game though.
I'd like to think so. After that performance.
You can't bring somebody in under those circumstances, have them play that well. And then, to be honest, find themselves in a similar sort of game. Like Man City, a very different team to Man United, but it will be similar in the sense that they're not going to be looking, again, to rain balls down on us from set pieces, and we will have time at the back, and we will want to be more controlled on the ball. It's a game that suits Aaron Ramsdale, and you've just brought him in for another game that suited him and he played really well. So it would be absurd to drop him. Unless have we got Odysseus back yet?
I hope so. Yeah, get John Ruddy, get him in there.
John Ruddy. Mark
You can play, Adam. You're a goalkeeper.
I am.
What about Mark Gillespie? No.
yeah, get him in. By the way,
Get him in here.
that'd be great. Mark, if you want to come on, you're more than welcome. Obviously, we've picked out a few players there, I think, in terms of individuals where, you know, we've been impressed because at times this season they haven't been that consistent, you know, the likes of Trippier or Joelinton. But I've got to give a shout out to Lewis Hall and Sandro Tonali because they have been so consistent, even when the results haven't been going our way. And once again, they put in, both of them, unbelievable performance against Manchester United. And it's funny because they strangely won't be the players that get the credit or the headlines from that game. But once again, they're showing why they're so valuable.
They're just elite players. Like, we have had to make do in the transfer market. I mean, how many times we talked about this? It was such a bruising summer. We identified players who we thought would take us to the next level, and we've watched them all go to Manchester United, to Liverpool, to Chelsea, everywhere else, to Arsenal. Because the reality is, even if when we're offering Champions League football, we're not offering the absurd salaries they're able to get elsewhere. We simply can't compete with those players if those other clubs are interested. So it's very rare that we're able to go out and go buy somebody who's an immediate top-level player, comes in, massively elevates the squad. We never get those. We go and get the players we can get, and the hope is that they then become players of that level while we've got them. That's what we've seen with pretty much everybody we've bought who's done well. Tonali and Hall are probably right now, with Bruno being out, the two best players at Newcastle United. Yeah. But they weren't signed because, you know, every other club in Europe was looking at them. Like Tonali, we were the only club that came in for him, and we got him. Lewis Hall, Chelsea thought he was a good way to balance the PSR books because they probably didn't need a third or fourth choice left back, but they're now easily two of the best players in that position in the Premier League. That's just the journey we're on. I think it just looks weird to us because we're so used to the developmental trajectory. Players doing well one week and then having to sort of accept that maybe they'll, you know, come and go as the season goes. They are just every week top level players who should be at the very top of this division. And if everybody was to that standard, we would not be 13th. You know, we'd be challenging a lot higher. But they're just games like this. It just shines because they don't have to get you a goal or get you an assist or get you a major. You know, they can look like the third or fourth best player on the pitch, but that quality level is just it's so pleasing to watch. It's honestly, I love them both.
You don't leave us.
Yeah, I nearly said I'm going to miss them. That's a weird way of thinking it.
Do you know what I love as well?
Talking myself into it.
We've basically picked out every single player who played last night, given them loads of praise. We've compared Joelinton to Rivaldo. That's what happens when you beat Manchester United in the last minute. Guys, we've managed to wind someone up with this show.
What?
Probably not for the first time. talkSPORT's chief live football anchor, Adrian Durham, who's come for us on the talkSPORT podcast, Fiery Fridays. Here's what he had to say after last week's Inside The Toon about Newcastle's Nick Woltemade.
Right, Nick Woltemade, I'm going to say this, is the worst signing in Premier League history. Okay, hear me out here, and I'm sure you're all trying to come up with names that were worse, right? And listen, it actually isn't against him. It's nothing personal, okay? He might be the loveliest fella. I hear he's a very good teammate, one of those, you know, that you need around the dressing room. But 65, 70 million quid for one of those, we've got to delve deeper into this player, okay? Is he a 9, Woltemade? No. 1 goal in 18 games is not a 9. Is he a midfielder? No, definitely not. Is he a number 10? Now, have a look at the number 10s around the Premier League. Morgan Rogers, Cole Palmer, Bruno Fernandes, Morgan Gibbs-White, Eze, Odegaard. There are better number 10s in the Championship than Nick Woltemade. He is not a top-flight 10. 2 Premier League assists all season. When did Newcastle play with a 10? They're not going to rip up that 3-man midfield to put Woltemade at 10. So the fact they needed to replace Isak, who had gone, Eddie Howe's putting him all over the park trying to find a home for him. 70 million quid. And he hasn't even got a position in the team. That's your big signing. That's a joke signing. So pound for pound, for what a team needed and for what he brings, I make Nick Woltemade the worst ever Premier League signing.
So there we go. Unlike Adrian Durham to have a huge hot take saying that he's the worst Premier League signing of all time. Just to give a bit of context to it, because I feel that we could all sit here and we could name, you know, the Mykhailo Mudryks, the Antonys, the Jadon Sanchos of this world who are the actual worst Premier League signings of all time. But the reason Adrian's trying to make out that Woltemade has been a flop is because of the context of the signing. So he's trying to say that because he's meant to be this big Isak replacement and come in for 69 million and then had this tough patch, that it just really hasn't worked. But I don't know about you guys. He hasn't even been Newcastle's worst signing this season. It makes
That's
no
what makes
sense
me
to me.
think. Does he actually watch football? Like, that is probably the worst football hot take of all time. How about that, Adrian? Do you know what I mean? No, seriously though. Like, if you've watched Newcastle United, you could have gone for Vissa. Cool, have that one. Alanga, cool, have that one. Maybe Ramsey, have that one. But Woltemade, who scored 10 goals. Did you not see the little flick he did against Brighton? Did you not see the penalty, top bins penalty he had against Nottingham Forest? Like, have you not seen 4 assists? And his goals are similar to Sesko, similar to João Pedro, even quite similar to Ekatike. So how could you say the worst, not even the worst of the season, of all time, absolute stinker?
The thing that Adrian is... Look, I agree with you guys, by the way. But the thing
you better.
The thing Adrian's trying to say as well, though, is that what Newcastle have done... And by the way, I'll point out, he also... I don't know why I'm defending Adrian.
You're giving too much credit. What?
No, but he also says that Woltemade is a decent player, but it's the fact that he hasn't worked in an Eddie Howe team. And he's saying that, look, there's been a purple patch at the start of the season where he has scored those 8 goals and scored against Aston Villa. But the fact that Eddie Howe has been moving him around so much, etc., means that it's a signing that completely hasn't worked, and that's the reason why it's been so poor.
I think it's absolutely fair to say that, like, Newcastle have struggled to integrate Nick Woltemade into the side. Like, the first one of these I was ever on, I was like, oh, Nick Woltemade represented a really exciting prospect for Newcastle to go and get, because he really did give the team a chance to evolve past Isak. He was not going to be an Alexander Isak direct replacement because he does not press the same way. He's not his natural finisher. He's not there to get 2 or 3 touches in a game and go home with a match ball. You know what I mean? That's not his job. He allows you to control games better, which is what this Newcastle side desperately want to do. And it's not massively worked. There's been very few games this season where you've gone, that game plan's worked perfectly, and Nick Woltemade has been at the very centre of that. But I think individually, in amongst that not working as a system thing, a lot of his individual performances have been really, really good. He had people calling it a purple patch for goals at the start of the season. Great. A purple patch for goals is not a criticism. That's a good run of form he was on. Yeah. And the goals have dried up a little bit since, but he's played deeper, his link-up play's been better. If I'm a manager of a football side, or even a director of football, I'm looking at that transfer this season and going, okay, we did buy somebody really good. We've got somebody who, when the situation is right and when we play it with strengths, is capable of offering us something absolutely brilliant. Hasn't happened anywhere near as much as we would like, but clearly the talent is there. And if we can develop that a little bit more next year, we can enhance the system. We can maybe bring in 1 or 2 other players that suit doing what he's doing more than what we're currently doing. Great. Like, you can't say anything's the worst anything. How many Premier League games has he played? 27 this season. He's missed 4 or 5 of them. So he's 20-odd games into his Premier League career. I think, given the age he is, the talent he's got, and the contributions he's made in that time, I'd actually say he's been pretty all right so far this season.
Yeah. Do you think that do you feel like, even if you part what Adrian has to say, do you think that there's been times where he's been a bit scapegoated this season, Woltemade?
Very much so. I saw... again, club legend Alan Shearer said about him, and I think he's had to retract on that and kind of spread the blame.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed in that.
Yeah, he spread the blame, in amongst the team, which is rightfully so, because we've all not looked good. But yes, he has been scapegoated. Like I said, the numbers speak for himself, and they're similar to, his, let's say, rivals, if you like, at different clubs. So why are you digging out Woltemade, who's fresh into the league, hit the ground running, scored goals for fun, flicks, tricks, and all the rest of it now? Like we were saying earlier, we need a player like that who's a bit of a... He can link the play up together and has got fast feet and all the rest of it and can offer something different. So, yeah, I don't know why he's getting scapegoated. Maybe because, he dresses a little bit different, he looks a bit different, he's very quiet, he's to himself. He's not done anything wrong to my knowledge, so why are we picking on him?
I think it's just goals at the end of the day. Like, not to bring up an incredibly nerdy stat, I saw the other day.
Unlike you, Adam?
Unlike me. If you'll just give me the benefit of the doubt here for one sentence, right? I saw this, I think it was Opta published it the other day. In terms of games won on XG, which obviously gets you nothing, right? We're 3rd this season, okay? Which doesn't mean we deserve to be 3rd or we're the 3rd best team in the league, but it does show that clearly us being 13th is not a product of us being the 13th best team in the Premier League. It means something else is going wrong somewhere else. We've been quite a lot of tight games where one mistake or one goal conceded or one chance not taken does feel like it's been the difference. Like the Everton game, for example, we should not be giving those 3 goals away. You stop 1 or 2 of those, which we really should do, we probably win that match. And again, it was a game that we came out on top in terms of the numbers. Woltemade's position is, well, if they're playing all right, if all the numbers say, look, this is a much better team than the league table perhaps suggests, then, you're right to drop Nick Pope, because if he keeps 3 or 4 of those out the net across the season, that's maybe a couple of extra results. And the same goes at the top end. Woltemade, I think, on his own, has been quite good this season. I think he can probably be quite pleased with the season he's had. But there have been games where a slightly more ruthless finish here, a chance taken, that's the difference between a draw and a win. That's the difference between a defeat and a draw. And those are, even if it's just these small moments, 3 or 4 examples where he could have finished better, that adds up across a season. And it's the difference between us being 13th and being 6th or 7th.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think that's, you can pin it on him and say it's his fault we're not in that position. But I think the reason he gets his contribution gets unfairly magnified compared to the rest of the team as a whole is because when games are tight, it is, can your goalie keep one out of the net that gets you the win? Can your centre forward get you this goal you had no right to get? And we did have that last season, and we don't now. So I can see why it falls on him. But on an individual basis, I think he's done a lot right this season.
Going to have to get Adrian on, aren't we? That'll be a very spicy Inside
Defend yourself, Adrian. Defend yourself.
Now, we know it's going to be an absolutely mad March, gentlemen, and included in that will be a very, very spicy couple of games against Barcelona. Joining us to talk more about this is European football expert Kev Hatchard. Kev, how you doing?
Well, I was doing well until I heard that nonsense from Adrian. I'm going to have to send him a text about this.
Well, actually,
Honestly.
before we get into the Barca game then, Kev, you're a German football expert. I mean, you watched a lot of Nick Woltemade. You were actually the first person that I texted when the transfer came through. And I remember you said he was like Peter
nice.
Crouch on
That's
steroids.
Nice.
Yeah. But what is your take on Woltemade this season and what Adrian had to say?
Look, I think what you have to bear in mind with Woltemade is that he was actually a bit of a late developer in the sense that we knew about this kid coming through at Werder Bremen who was tall, who had all of this incredible touch, this technique. And you looked at him and you thought, he had a lot of games where he wasn't scoring goals and you thought, okay, there's definitely something there. It was only when he went away to the lower leagues and played for Elversberg that he got all of these goals for them and did a phenomenal job for them. Then Stuttgart took him. And under Sebastian Hoeneß, who's one of the best talent developers in Europe, I believe, he took off and he scored goals. He made goals. He helped them win the DFB Pokal, which is the German version of the FA Cup. He was, I think, the top scorer in the tournament last season. And there is a reason why Bayern wanted to sign him in the summer, because they wanted to have not only a backup for Harry Kane, but somebody who could fill in that 10 position. And somebody that would be able to, if Kane wasn't around, not be a catastrophic drop-off. So you're talking about one of the top clubs in Europe wanting to sign him. He's not Isak. But then Isak wasn't Isak when he first arrived. The jury was out on him. And I have to say, the explosion in his performances was a bit of a surprise, really. We knew he was really talented, but, it took a while, and then he suddenly showed he could reach the level. Woltemade started well. I think you're talking about a team that overall, like you say, has probably underperformed a bit compared to some of the data. It's a very tight league, that happens. But he's been part of an overall effort where they've got into the knockout phase of the Champions League. They've gone deep in the League Cup. I think because people look at it and say he cost a lot of money and he's not Isak, he gets a lot of stick. And people can't compute what he is because they see this giraffe of a man and they're expecting him to thunder in headers like Roy of the Rovers. He's never been that player. I don't think he's great in the air for a guy who's that tall, actually. I think it's actually when the ball is at his feet where you see the real Nick Woltemade. So, yeah, look, stick with it. He needs the support, I think. I think he does need that backing from the fans. And I think if they do that, I think in a year's time, we'll be talking about what an important player he is.
What do you think his best position is, though, Kev? Because obviously he's been moved around a fair amount by Eddie Howe. You just talked about where you think his strengths lie. Obviously for Germany, he is still the number 9 for Newcastle. He's been tried out in midfield. Where do you think he is best?
I'm not having this midfield thing. But look, what I get about that is that what he needs is runners around him, because he's a link player. He's great with the ball at his feet. He likes having players he can pop the ball off to and play little combinations with. So what you need really is you need him to be in a situation where, yes, nominally he's the striker, but he can drop into the 10 and have runners around him. And there's no reason why Newcastle can't do that. If you're expecting him to be some bull of a man, knocking people over and leading the line, Shearer-esque, that's not going to happen. But I think if you play him with a mind of, yes, he'll get some goals, yes, he'll be in the box, but also he's got that license to drop in a bit and link, a little bit in the way that Kane does now for Bayern and did for Tottenham, I think that's where you're looking for him to be really effective, that kind of 9.5 kind of role.
Kevin, what's been the assessment of him in Germany, do you know? Is there a clamour for him to be starting more games? Is there concern over his position in the national squad? Or do they see he's just had a decent start in the Premier League, but things have got a little bit tough?
Yeah, I think there's talk about it. I think the most amount of interest in him is whether he's going to make Julian Nagelsmann's squad. And Nagelsmann's been, I think he's a fan of Woltemade. There's no doubt about that. It's just whether he thinks he's going to be effective in a World Cup. I would take him, but there's a lot of strikers that he could take. I mean, there's an old teammate of Woltemade's, Dennis Undav, who I think it'd be crazy not to take him because he's such a smart, unusual footballer. So he's got to make a decision, and there's a big question mark over Havertz's fitness as well. I think Havertz should be Germany's starting centre forward if everybody's fit, and I think that's probably the way that Nagelsmann would lean as well. But I do think he'll look for pieces that give you something unusual, and Woltemade is definitely one of those.
If we move on then to the Champions League, Kev, it's such an exciting draw for Newcastle taking on Barcelona over 2 legs. And I saw that you tweeted after the draw was made that actually it could be a game that obviously will be very difficult for Newcastle, but might suit them.
Well, the first thing, Ollie, is you need to pick up a hobby and stop just looking at my Twitter feed. I'm worried. I'm worried that you keep picking these things up. But look, I do genuinely, when that draw was made, my feeling was, of all the teams around in that draw, I feel like Newcastle's a bad matchup for Barcelona. Now, people will say, well, this is nonsense because Barcelona have won there already in the league phase. But what you have to look at is that Barcelona let you play, and they try and squeeze, and they play this high line. And I know Hansi Flick gets very antsy about this and doesn't want people talking about the high line, but it's true. That's what they do. They squeeze up, and they rely on the fact that they're going to stop you in the press, and they're going to have pressure on the ball and not let you play through. But look at the players they're going to be missing potentially, certainly for the first leg. The fullbacks are out, so Jules Koundé's out, Balde's out. I know they've got Joao Cancelo, so that helps. But that's a problem straight away.
Didn't know that.
Inigo Martinez, they've really missed because he was the one that led that high press, really. So they haven't got him because he went off to Saudi. So they are vulnerable. Of course, then you look at what they've got going forward and think, wow, how the hell are we going to deal with that? So that's a separate issue. But do I think Newcastle with Gordon in behind or Elanga with pace? I know Elanga's not always the most effective, but he's got a hell of a lot of pace.
But he is always fast.
Do I think they can hurt them in behind? Yeah. So that gives them a fighting chance. If Pedri controls the game, then it is difficult because, then everything sparks off him. But I think they can score goals against Barcelona. It's just going to be how many can they keep out at the other end.
Yeah, the point about Pedri is so true. He just started to dominate when they played them in that.
Pedri's
first game.
Probably had the best away player performance I've seen at St James's Park in years and years and years. And what Kevin said there, that's exactly how that game in the Champions League group stages went. We did get lots of chances in behind, we just didn't take them. I was delighted when we got Barcelona, obviously because it's the kind of fixture you want to have in the Champions League, but because exactly what Kevin said there, I thought we were very unlucky to give away the 2 goals where we actually gave them away. One of them's an absolute perler from Rashford, and the other, Fabian Schär, thinks he's on Mars when the cross comes in. So on another day, that exact same fixture, we could quite easily have done or got a much better result. So I completely agree with that. I'm really looking forward to it.
Not that we're getting ahead of ourselves either, Kev, but you've just said that we're likely to beat Barcelona. So how excited Newcastle be about the side of the draw they've ended up in? Look, I genuinely, we're not getting ahead of ourselves, but if it does come to pass that they do manage to get past Barcelona, I mean, they have ended up with Arsenal on what is just the easier side of the draw. Let's have it right.
I'm a little bit sceptical about this whole easiest side of the draw business, I have to say, because I understand why people are saying that, but Atletico Madrid have just duffed up Barcelona 4-0. Yes, they lost the second leg 3-0, so I get that Barca made it close, and that's a warning. But you've got Atletico on that side. You've got Sporting, who have beaten PSG in the league phase, and have done a great job since Ruben Amorim left. I think Borges has done a super job just stabilising them. Forde Glimt, I covered both of their legs against Inter, and they fully deserve to go through.
Love Forde.
And then, yeah, you would expect Arsenal to beat Leverkusen, because Leverkusen at the moment are not in the place where they would like to be. So I'd expect Arsenal to see them off. Look, whoever you get, I always find it really funny, because whoever you get in the Champions League at this stage, and everybody says, oh, but we could beat them, and then maybe we could do this. It's not how it works. It's never been how it works. You are going to get tough ties, and you're going to get moments like, I mean, Inter fans would have gone, oh, Forde Glimt, thank God for that. And, 2 weeks later, out you go. So there are teams that have a very high level of quality. And just on a slight tangent, it's why I was so impressed by what Newcastle did in the playoff. Because going to Azerbaijan and producing that first half performance, I think people have written that off a little bit and said, well, it's Karabakh, who cares? That was a phenomenal first half display. Because I tell you right now, that's a proper team, Karabakh. They drew with Chelsea, they beat Frankfurt, they beat Copenhagen, they went to Benfica, came back from 2-0 down. It's a proper team. So look, it works both ways. Teams will look at Newcastle and think, ugh, don't want to play them. So that's just where you're at, but it shows where Newcastle are that they're in that company.
Kev, thanks very much indeed. You can check out Kev's Twitter. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
Kevin
He loves
Hatchard.
it. Ollie writes them for me.
Please answer my calls and texts, Kev, as well. Great stuff, Kev. Thank you very much indeed for joining us there. And it's good to hear that he's on our side about Nick Woltemade as well, especially from someone who's seen him play so much. I mean, Clint, we've talked about it there a bit, but just how exciting is that draw? Getting Barcelona, especially because the other draw could have been Chelsea, and look, you maybe look at that and you think they're familiar. It might be a game that we could get through. It'd also be 3 games in the space of a week, which would be a bit crazy. But it's those glamour ties you want, right?
Yeah, of course. Look, to beat the best or be the best, you've got to beat the best, right? So again,
Ric Flair.
there you go. Woo! I didn't think you'd be quoting that in the Newcastle show. But look, Barcelona, bring them on, because I'm feeling the confidence right now. Look, we all kind of feared this month of 6 fixtures: Man United, Manchester City, the 2 Barcelona ties, and Chelsea in between, and obviously them lot down the road. But Barcelona, I think we can give them a go. You guys are worried about Pedri. Have you not seen Joelinton? Have you not seen the size of Joelinton's pockets? Like, he's going to be in there. I've no fear, man. No fear.
Really looking forward to it. By the way, Jack Cunningham, our usual contributor, is not on the show today because he's actually out in Barcelona doing a little recce for us. We've got Kev on to do the preview of the actual game. Jack's going to tell us which are the best pubs, where to go.
We got Jack, the secret spy.
Yeah. Good work, Jack. Good work, Jack. Listen, let's look ahead to. I mean, you've just mentioned it there. This March is absolutely ridiculous, but another massive game, Manchester City in the Cup. I mean, I'm sick of playing them now.
I'm playing them like every week. It feels like a Power League game.
I think I've previewed this game.
Power League game.
Every week.
I think, I think it feels like we preview this game every single week. The amount of times that we have played them, but that momentum from the Manchester United game is huge, isn't it?
Yep.
Adam taking it into this one.
2 things. One, this March is mad, as you say. We are unbeaten in March.
Hey.
What was it, the 6th day? We are currently unbeaten in the craziest month of the season. So we can bask in that for another 28 hours or so. But I do not believe you can win the FA Cup in this country unless you beat Man City. Now, I'm sure somebody will actually go through and look at whether or not that's true or not, but Pep Guardiola takes the FA Cup as seriously as the Premier League, I would say. The Champions League and the Premier League, he really does prioritise. It's why they went so long without a Carabao Cup final. That's where they get their rest. They really do prioritise this competition. I would much rather be playing Manchester City in the FA Cup in this round at St James's Park when we've got a bit of momentum, as opposed to in a semi-final when we've gone all the way through the competition, we've had the fixtures, we've had the impact on the legs, and then we get them. Because I think if you can knock Manchester City out of this competition, you should be considered the favourites for it. Which, maybe that's me getting carried away. Maybe that's a little bit daft. But I would be
That's
worried.
a hot take. I like that one.
If, let's say we had, who else is in this? Morecambe or somebody who've Arsenal got?
Well, I think Norwich play Leeds.
But let's say we had
Mansfield have got Arsenal.
Let's say we had Mansfield, or let's say it's some fixture where we were like, well, that's...
Port Vale have got Sunderland.
Great.
By the way, Geordie scored for... he's Kiwi, but he's a Newcastle fan. Scored for Port Vale against Bristol City to set up that tie with Sunderland, which is amazing.
Brilliant.
I absolutely love that.
Well, let's say we had a fixture where we were massive, overwhelming favourites, where you'd rotate some of the squad. Right, great, fine. I would still be like, well, the team's left in the draw. At some point, you've got to beat Man City. At some point, someone's got to knock Man City out. I'm don't know, that's not to write off Arsenal and any other teams that are still in it, but I think Manchester City really do prioritise this competition, and I would much rather have them now than have them later on. Because we've beat them at St James's Park this season, and we were very unlucky not to get a better result when we played them in the League Cup. Like, they don't particularly like coming to St James's as bad as our record is.
Pep Guardiola said it himself.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. If we can't beat Man City, I'd rather just get it out of the way.
I think Adam makes a good point, Clinton. You know, as much as that draw came out, and you just thought, really, like with the kind of draws Newcastle have had, even not even this season, going back a bit too, you just felt like, I can't believe this is happening again. But at the same time, you want them at home, and actually, you're probably going to end up playing them at some point.
If we're going to play them, we might as well play them at home. 12th man and all that. And I did say that we'd get through in this month. We'd get through one of these cup fixtures and be out of one. So I'm going to put it to you two. Out of Barcelona, Man City, FA Cup, Champions League, which one would you prefer? Obviously, we're going to choose both as biased Newcastle fans, but if you had to choose one, which one would you prioritise?
Well, I've just said to Kev Hatchard that we're in the easy side of the draw and are going to go on to win the Champions League, so I'll probably have to say both.
So we're in the Champions League.
I'm joking. I mean, it's tricky, isn't it? It's really tricky because I think how fun is a European journey, man? Like, how fun is that going? It's something that we've never done, gone deep in the knockout stages of the Champions League. So I think that unknown territory is so exciting. But then on the other side, you've got a tangible chance of not just silverware, obviously, but even just the days out at Wembley again and all of that. So
I think from a club's point of view, especially going into next season, I think we would have to prioritise the Champions League over the FA Cup. Obviously, I would love to win both, greedy and all the rest of it now, but what that could do for us in terms of going through to the next rounds, beating Barcelona, the financial rewards from that, which could then be put into, obviously, the transfer window, it'd have to be that.
Do you go along with that? Would you rather see us go through the FA Cup?
I think my head has to say you'd rather stay in the Champions League because, we're not looking at this competition as something we should be winning or having a deep run. And every game we have is brilliant. It's a blessing. It's an honour to be in the competition. But we are not going to qualify for the Champions League and the Premier League now. I think it's safe to say that's gone. And, if it's more plausible that we get back into the Champions League by winning it than it is by getting in a fifth or sixth. Purely mathematically speaking, I think. My heart, though, would say the FA Cup because I think knocking Manchester City out of this competition, Arsenal are still in it, but I'm never scared of playing Arsenal, as good as they are. I think we'd have a real chance of winning that. Whereas you put Barcelona out of the Champions League, every team you're going to play in the round from then is a team who can conceivably go and win the Champions League. And I don't know, man. I've seen us win something now, and I've got a taste for that. And the FA Cup,
want to be holders again.
The FA Cup is such a special competition, and it's especially important to the history. It's woven in to the very ancient history of this club, but it is a part of the identity that built it through the 50s and whatnot. So there would be something really special about an FA Cup final for me. But purely the head answer is, we should want to stay in the Champions League because of the financial incentives, and we can maybe get back into Europe and stuff. So yes. I wouldn't mind either. Can I say that?
I'll have both,
I wouldn't be bothered.
I'll have both. Yeah,
both ideally.
Right, now it's time for our bet builder with BetMGM. Remember, you can download the app or head to betmgm.co.uk. So we know it's going to be a very difficult game. I'm going to go with a Newcastle win, gentlemen, as I always do. What are you going to go for, Clinton?
I'm going to go with a Newcastle win, of course. I think Man City might score, though. Give them a little goal. Boost their confidence and all the rest of it. But I think it might be 2-1 Newcastle.
OK, so both teams will score for you?
Yeah.
OK, what about you, Adam? What are you going for?
I think this could be more open than it looks, and I think you'll get goals in both halves of this game. I can see quick starts and quick finishes. OK, there we go. Hopefully it ends with a Newcastle win through in the FA Cup and Anfield away in the next round. That's all from us today. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to Clinton. What a debut. Adam and Kevin as well. Join us again next week, which will be post first leg against Barcelona. How about that? This show is sponsored by BetMGM. Download the app or visit betmgm.co.uk. 18+, gambleaware.org. Please gamble responsibly. Have a good one. Goodbye.